and yet you seem to have looked at 0 of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
You ever see someone walk straight into a trap they set for somebody else? That's exactly what just happened when Senator Sheldon Whitehouse calmly cornered Pam Bondi. And suddenly, all the tough talk vanished. Whitehouse didn't come to play. He came with receipts. Epstein connections, cash-filled bags, and uncomfortable questions about Trump's inner circle. And Bondi? She tried to deflect, to attack, to spin, but the truth has a way of burning through the noise.
White House. Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Bondi, good morning.
Good morning.
What became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI paid to Mr. Homan in a paper bag, evidently?
Senator, as Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review by the FBI, agents, and DOJ prosecutors. They found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing.
And that was not my question. My question was, what became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI delivered, evidently in a paper bag, to Mr. Homan?
Senator, I'd look at your facts.
Are you saying that they did not deliver $50,000 in cash to Mr. Homan?
Senator, as recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review
different question.
by the FBI agents,
That's a
by
different
Department
question.
of Justice prosecutors. They found no evidence of wrongdoing.
That's a different question. What became of the $50,000? Did the FBI get it back?
Mr. Whitehouse, excuse me, Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to talk to the FBI.
The report to you, can't you answer this question?
Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to discuss this with Director Patel.
Did Homan keep the $50,000?
As Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr.
Never mind.
Homan
I can
was
see I'm not going to get a straight
full
answer from you
review
to a very simple question.
by the FBI agents and the DOJ. They found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. You know, you're very concerned about money and people taking money, and you rail against dark money.
Wait a second.
Yet you work with dark money groups all the time, Senator Whitehouse.
Did you know whether or not in that investigation they looked at whether the $50,000 payment to Mr. Homan was declared by him on his tax returns?
Senator, I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company.
The questions here are actually pretty specific. So having you respond with completely irrelevant far-right internet talking points really is not very helpful here. I'd like, Mr. Chairman, you generally like to have us be able to get answers to know, and we'll follow up with the QFR. And to the extent Patel wants to answer, that would be great as well. What happened to the $50,000? Did Homan keep it? Did the FBI get it back? If he kept it, did he put it on his tax returns? Pretty simple questions. Homan was the same guy who said there was a deal with Eric Adams. He said, if Adams doesn't come through, I'll be back. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to? Which brings us to the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee, because he was also involved in that transaction.
Yeah.
What became of the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee?
Yeah, Senator Whitehouse, to correct you for one moment, that would be the Honorable Judge Emil J. Bovee III to you.
Not at the time of this. He was an employee of the Department of Justice. And what became of the OPR investigation?
It's
into
all
his
pending litigation,
misconduct?
Senator. I can't discuss pending litigation nor personnel matters.
OPR customarily publicly says when there's an investigation, and at the end of it, they provide a summary. Why can't you say whether there's an OPR investigation and whether, if it's concluded, there's a summary?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
Even public ones.
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
So, Kash Patel told this committee that his grand jury testimony after immunization, after initially pleading the Fifth, was, and I quote, sealed by the Department of Justice. How and when and why was his testimony sealed, and by whom?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss any testimony, especially testimony that could be sealed with you.
No, the question is, was it or was it not sealed?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss that with you.
Well, he also said that he worked with the Department of Justice to have his transcript released publicly. How and when was his transcript released? Presumably, if he released it publicly, that's something you can discuss because it's public.
Well, Senator, I believe you discussed that with Director Patel.
And I'm asking you because he said the Department of Justice made this decision and you run the Department of Justice.
I would refer that to Director Patel.
Even though you run the Department of Justice and he testified that the Department of Justice released his transcript publicly.
If it is released publicly, we will get you a copy, Senator, gladly.
If being a rather important word there, when your FBI director testified that that was a fact. Treasury compiles suspicious activity reports, referred to often as SARs, that DOJ receives automatically. Hundreds related to accounts of Jeffrey Epstein. How many of those Treasury SARs did you or Director Patel investigate?
Senator, I'm not sure if you're concerned because you took money, I believe, did you, from Reid Hoffman, one of Epstein's closest confidants, not only once but twice in 2018 and 2024, if that's correct. But, Senator, did you ask Merrick Garland any of this over the last 4 years when he sat before you? This investigation has been going on. This investigation was closed. Did you ask Alex Acosta that?
When you and Patel came to office, you said you would look into this. There were hundreds of suspicious activity reports. Some people would deduce from the fact that they are called suspicious activity reports that there might be suspicious activity. And yet you seem to have looked at zero of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump, left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that. Okay. Here's what well, no, we cut to something else. The Marshal Service is supposed to protect our federal judges. I have asked repeatedly for the Marshal Service to let me know if they are investigating or being inhibited from investigating whether or not there is orchestration of threats against federal judges, whether under either conspiracy laws or racketeering enterprise laws or aiding and abetting laws, whatever. But as you know, there's the person who says the threat, and then there may very well be somebody orchestrating the threat behind them. Mm-hmm. Is the Marshal Service allowed to investigate orchestration of threats, and do you know if they've taken one step to do so?
May I answer the question, Chairman Grassley? The time has expired.
I think it's the convention of the committee that if I've started my question in my time, you may answer the question.
I was asking the chairman.
Okay, before I go to Cornyn.
She wants to answer the question, Chairman.
Oh, please go ahead. I thought you said you didn't want to answer it.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
sir. Thank you. Senator Whitehouse, I would be happy to sit down with you regarding any threat to any federal judge in this country. We take threats very seriously. I will set a meeting with you, with Director Seralta of the U.S. Marshals, and I will be there. And we will talk about any threats on federal judges.
Including orchestration.
Who threatened them or who orchestrated them.
Bingo, thank you.
Okay, before Cornyn speaks, I get kind of amused about my Democratic colleagues bringing up Treasury suspicious activity reports regarding Epstein. When Senator Johnson and I issued our Biden family reports in 2020, we used information from these very same type of documents. And you know what? We were criticized by our Democratic colleagues for doing so, and for years they ignored the evidence of the Biden family criminality.
You ever watch a moment in Congress that feels like watching the mask slip off power itself? That's exactly what happened when Senator Sheldon Whitehouse went straight for the truth, and Pam Bondi tried every trick in the GOP playbook to stop him from getting there. Let's set the scene. The air is tight. The question is clear. Whitehouse looks her dead in the eye and says, "What became of the $50,000 in cash the FBI paid to Mr. Hammond in a paper bag?" That's it. Simple, direct. A senator asking a basic question about taxpayer money, an FBI transaction, and accountability. And what does Pam Bondi do? She smiles. That politician smirk that says, "I'm about to talk for 2 minutes without saying a single useful word." And then she does exactly that. She starts rattling off the standard Washington dodge. The investigation was subject to a full review by the FBI and the Department of Justice, and they found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. But Whitehouse, this is why he's so effective, doesn't blink. He leans in. "That's not my question. I'm asking what happened to the money." Boom. Silence. The mask starts to crack. He presses again. Did the FBI get the money back? Did the suspect keep it? Was it reported to the IRS? Every question more specific than the last. Every answer more evasive. Bondi won't say yes or no. She won't even pretend to have the answer. She keeps repeating the same lines, like she's reading a script. That's when you realize she is, because this is what happens when accountability collides with loyalty to Trump's shadow network. See, Pam Bondi isn't some random official. She's a longtime Trump ally. She's defended his people for years. She's the same person who refused to pursue an investigation into Trump University while her campaign got a big donation from Trump's foundation. That's not coincidence. That's corruption in daylight. So when she sits there under oath and plays dumb, this isn't confusion. It's choreography. She's protecting someone. Maybe the Bureau. Maybe the donors. Maybe the entire web of people who've benefited from Epstein's silence. And Whitehouse knows it. That's why his calm persistence is so powerful. He doesn't take the bait. He doesn't shout. He just keeps asking. Because when you know someone's lying, you don't need to yell. You just keep making them talk. Then she flips the script. She goes full MAGA deflection. Senator, you work with dark money groups. What about your wife's company? Classic. The minute they can't answer, they attack. Republican witnesses have turned this into an art form. When caught cornered, accuse your questioner of corruption, socialism, communism, whatever sticks. Whitehouse doesn't flinch. He calls it out, says her responses sound like far-right internet talking points. And he's right. It's like watching a Fox News chyron come to life. But here's where it gets darker. Whitehouse asks about Jeffrey Epstein. He says Treasury flagged hundreds of suspicious activity reports tied to Epstein's accounts, financial red flags that automatically went to the DOJ. He asks, how many of those did your Department of Justice actually investigate? You could hear a pin drop. Bondi dodges again. She doesn't answer because she can't. Because under this Republican-controlled justice structure, the rich and connected never seem to get real scrutiny. The same DOJ that would chase down a working-class protester or an immigrant's minor infraction suddenly can't find its paperwork when Epstein's name shows up. Then comes the bombshell question. Did the FBI find the photographs witnesses say Epstein showed of Donald Trump with half-naked young women? Bondi's mask shatters. She lashes out, accuses Whitehouse of slandering President Trump. She doesn't deny the photos exist. She doesn't confirm them either. She just attacks. It's the tell of someone terrified of what's true. Because let's be clear, this isn't some tabloid rumor. Multiple credible witnesses have said Epstein bragged about compromising photos of powerful men, including Trump. That's been public record for years. The question isn't whether Epstein had the leverage, it's whether the people in power ever wanted that truth to come out. So when Bondi hides behind ongoing investigation, when she says, I won't discuss personnel matters, what she's really saying is, we're not going to talk about this because it might expose someone you know. You know those moments in Washington when you can feel someone trying to dodge the truth? When every sentence sounds rehearsed, every smile feels fake, and the silence between answers says more than the words themselves? That was Pam Bondi today, cornered, flustered, and outmatched by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Now, this wasn't some routine back and forth. This was a reckoning, and Whitehouse came prepared for war with receipts. He starts with a question that cuts straight to the bone. What became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI paid to Mr. Homan in a paper bag? No fluff, no setup, just accountability. And immediately, Bondi looks rattled. Her answer? The classic bureaucratic dodge. The investigation was subject to a full review by the FBI and DOJ prosecutors, and they found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. That's politician code for, we're not answering that. Whitehouse, though, cool as ever, doesn't let it slide. He interrupts, sharp and steady. That's not my question. He repeats, did the FBI get the money back? Did Mr. Homan keep it? Was it reported? 3 direct questions, 3 chances for a straight answer. And Bondi gives none. Instead, she dances, ducking behind pending litigation, personnel matters, and ongoing investigations. You could practically hear the Republican playbook flipping in her head. Then she tries the classic MAGA move, attack the questioner. She sneers about dark money groups. She takes a shot at Whitehouse's wife. And in that moment, you realize exactly what this is, a cover-up hiding behind outrage. Because when Republicans get caught in the light, they don't defend, they deflect. They try to smear Democrats as corrupt so they don't have to answer for their own. And it's pathetic, because all Whitehouse was asking for was transparency, accountability, a clear explanation of where that taxpayer money went and whether it was ever investigated. And Bondi's refusal to answer speaks volumes. But Whitehouse doesn't stop there. He pivots, and here's where it gets explosive. He brings up Jeffrey Epstein. Now, remember, Treasury has what's called suspicious activity reports. These are alerts banks send when they detect shady or potentially criminal financial behavior. Hundreds of these reports were tied to Epstein's accounts. Hundreds. And what does Whitehouse ask? The most logical question in the world. How many of those Treasury reports did the DOJ actually investigate? That's when Bondi's mask cracks completely. She freezes because she can't say none. And that's the real story. For years, Republican officials have pretended to care about law and order, about justice, about protecting children. But when it comes to Epstein, when it comes to Trump's inner circle, the silence is deafening. You'll notice what Bondi never says in this entire exchange. She never says the FBI got the money back. She never says the investigation was thorough. She never says Epstein's network was fully scrutinized. Because deep down, she knows that would mean looking into people the GOP still protects. And then, this moment right here should make headlines everywhere. Whitehouse asks her if the FBI found those rumored photographs that Epstein allegedly had of Trump with young women. You could hear a pin drop. Bondi suddenly drops her polished tone and goes full partisan rage. Senator, you're just trying to slander President Trump. No denial, no facts, just rage. That's the tell. When someone's first instinct isn't to clarify or deny, but to attack, it's because the truth is too dangerous to say out loud. And Whitehouse, you can see it on his face. He knows it. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to perform. He just lets her spiral. Because he understands something fundamental. The louder the lies get, the closer you are to the truth. This whole thing, from the cash payments to the sealed testimony, from the DOJ silence to the Epstein questions, it paints a clear picture. The Republican machine isn't about justice anymore. It's about protection. Protecting their donors, protecting their political idols, protecting the network of people who thrive on secrecy, silence, and access.